One-way ticket, yeah. It took me so long to find out, and I found out.
This is Jim Fetzer, your host on Authentic News right here on RBN Live. This is 12th day of March 2025. A lot going on in Europe, in Eastern Europe. Ukraine has agreed to a 30-day ceasefire. The question becomes, will Russia? There are numerous stories about it, but most of them at present are on YouTube, on videos. But it's a significant development, which, however, is unlikely to be agreed to by Russia. After all, Russia has experienced the Minsk Accord.
Out of Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, where Secretary of State Marco Rubio has just emerged along with Mike Waltz from a meeting with the Ukraine side. They've had over 4 hours, and he announced that they actually have something agreed upon.
Today, we made an offer that the Ukrainians have accepted, which is to enter into a ceasefire and into immediate negotiations to end this conflict in a way that's enduring and sustainable and accounts for their interests, their security, their ability to prosper as a nation. I want to personally we both want to thank the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, His Majesty, for hosting us, for making this possible. They've been instrumental in this process, and we're very grateful to them for hosting us here today. And hopefully we'll take this offer now to the Russians. And we hope that they'll say yes to peace. The ball's now in their court. And but again, the president's objective here is, number one, above everything else, he wants the war to end. And I think today Ukraine has taken a concrete step in that regard. We hope the Russians will reciprocate.
So here he's saying, and Trump has said it, he wants to bring an end to the killing of innocent men, women, and children in Ukraine. And I say, well, why isn't he applying the same standard to the Middle East? Because in Gaza, tens of thousands of innocent men, women, and children are being slaughtered, and yet he seems to show no concern. There's an inconsistency here. Meanwhile, Tucker has an interview with Colonel McGregor. Let's pick up a bit of it.
We're on the brink of something really catastrophic. I kind of can't shake that feeling. And by catastrophic, I mean some kind of global war. Hope that's not true. But let's just start with what just happened, which is a drone attack on Moscow by the Ukrainians that killed a number of Russians in Moscow. Mm-hmm. Who did that? Why? And what are its effects?
This is on his toes. I'm sure Kash Patel is well aware of this in the FBI. I just don't have any good feelings right now about the Ukrainians. I think they're done. They're finished. They've lost the war. So all of these are sort of acts of vengeance, if you will, last resort. Hurl whatever you have as deep as you can into Russia and just kill, murder, maim as many Russians as possible.
But what, to what end?
Well, to harm Russians and then try to create the illusion that there is some hope for them, that they can somehow or another mobilize more manpower and put more forces into the field. They can't. They're really scraping the bottom of the barrel. I think the issue right now is the following. The Russians have the initiative, strategic initiative. This war is effectively at an end as far as they're concerned in terms of having won it. They now have to make some decisions. So you have to put yourself not so much in the place of Zelensky. He's irrelevant. The Russians are not surprised by what he's done. I think they're surprised that we haven't intervened to try and stop it. That's what I think they're surprised about. So what they want now, the Russians, is an end to this nonsense. They have several options. They now have concentrations of forces in the northeastern part of Ukraine and down in the southeastern part. They can move at will at any time. They have enough force they can cross in Kherson. They can take Odessa. They can move forward and straight into Kiev. Whatever they do, they have to ask themselves, how far do we want to go to guarantee our security as Russians? And they have never really wanted to go very far. That's never been the intent. But over time, they've been pushed more and more and more to secure more territory to protect themselves. This latest act is probably convincing Russians that they should go straight to the Dnieper River, cross into Kiev, root out this regime, root and branch, cross down south and take Odessa, and turn rump Ukraine into a landlocked country. I'm sure there are people who are arguing for that. There are other Russians who are saying, the hell with this. Let's just crush Ukraine once and for all. This is a permanent cancer. It's not going to go away. People from the West are always going to try and go in and incite them. So let's march to the Romanian and Polish borders, right to Moldova, and be done with this. In the middle of this, it's President Putin. And President Putin is nothing if not a very judicious person. He's a very thoughtful person. This is someone who does not act impulsively. I'm sure you saw that.
I have.
Everything is calculated. So he's going to sit there and say, what do I want to do? What makes the most sense for Russia? Set aside the emotion. And he also knows President Trump, and he says, President Trump wants an end to this. So do I. How do I nudge President Trump and say, help us? We want to end this just as much as you do. Help us a little bit. Can't you rid us of this man Zelensky and this little MI6 CIA-supported cabal that surrounds him? Can't you help us with this? But
I think that's just wonderful. Colonel McGregor is so good. Putin has also been interviewed about the situation, and here's a bit of it.
He probably has the ability to act straightforwardly and without any particular embarrassment. He's in a unique position. He does not just say what he thinks. He says what he wants. Well, this is the privilege of the leader of one of the large and great powers. A few days ago in St. Petersburg, I asked you about the fact that everyone now wants to have some kind of voice in Russian-American negotiations, but the Europeans continue to insist and demand the right to vote in the negotiations around Ukraine. How do you assess this? I do not see anything bad here. Probably. No one can demand anything here, especially from Russia. Let them demand from someone else. For thousands of years, they have demanded anything from their vassals. Now they are demanding from them. Therefore, let them sit at home with their demands and think about how they got to this point in their lives. But their participation in the negotiation process is in demand, of course, and we have never refused to negotiate. We have had constant discussions with them. At some point, under all sorts of far-fetched ideas to defeat Russia on the battlefield, they themselves refuse to contact us. If they want to come back, welcome. I saw their reaction to our telephone conversation with the U.S. president, and I saw their reaction to the high-level meeting in Riyadh. Indeed, this reaction is emotional and devoid of any practical meaning. Why? Because in order to resolve complex and even acute issues, including on the Ukrainian track, both Russia and the United States must take the first step. What does it consist of? This first step should be dedicated to increasing the level of trust between both states. This is what we did in Riyadh. And this is what the next possible high-level contacts will be devoted to. Without this, it is impossible to resolve any issue, including such a complex and acute issue as the Ukrainian crisis. But what do the Europeans have to do with this? This concerns bilateral Russian-American relations. Why do we need the Europeans here? What will they do here? And in the telephone conversation, by the way, and at the meeting in Riyadh, of course, the problems related to the Ukrainian crisis were touched upon. But it was not discussed there in essence. We only agreed that we would approach this. But in this sense and in this case, of course, we are not refusing the participation of European countries. But I want to emphasize, we We also respect the position of our friends from BRICS, who created a group of supporters of peace. Today, I spoke with the chairman of the People's Republic of China, and we also discussed this. He informed me that the Friends of Peace group in New York will meet again soon, and they will discuss this. Not only do we welcome this, we are grateful to all our partners who raise these issues, who strive to achieve peace. Why am I saying this? Not only Europeans, but also other countries have the right and can participate, and we respect this. I wanted to ask you to comment on a few more statements by Trump, of which, as I said, there are a lot, but not all of them. Okay, not all of them. For example, he said that he wants to offer you and the head of China to cut defense budgets in half. How do you like this idea? I know, I can guess what this is based on. It is based, apparently, on the calculations of one of the British research centers, which said that our military spending was calculated at purchasing power parity. Last year, the U.S. had, I think, already $968 billion. And if you add up Russian and Chinese spending, then these figures are approximately the same. Russian and Chinese together. If you compare them with the American ones, well, first of all, we need to calculate all this. The calculations of the British Center may be correct, or they may not be very correct, or completely incorrect. We need to look at this. First, second, I cannot comment on how the People's Republic of China will react to this. There were different approaches from the American side regarding strategic offensive weapons and other very serious issues. Therefore, this is a matter for the People's Republic of China. But we could agree with the United States. We are not against it. It seems to me.
Let me just add, he goes on, he's asked about Zelensky, and he's saying it's important that Zelensky step aside that they have elections in Ukraine, but from the Russian point of view, Zelensky is so disliked by Ukrainians. Some polls have his popularity as low as 4%, and by the Ukrainian military, that he feels the longer Zelensky's in office, the more Ukraine and its ability to defend itself will deteriorate. Now, notice, we saw Zelensky do a U-turn after his humiliation in the Oval Office. He immediately went to France and the UK to seek their support. We got these harebrained ideas from Emmanuel Macron of the French providing a nuclear umbrella for a kind of mini NATO within NATO, including the UK and Germany, presumably. But then it turns out that French law does not permit French nukes to be used other than for the defense of France. So Macron was blowing smoke and not even knowing it. He's that incompetent. Meanwhile, Zelensky sent a note of apology to Trump and said now he was willing to move forward with Trump, even, I think, with regard to the mineral agreement. But my understanding is he'd already made one with the UK, so he doesn't have the minerals at his disposal. On the contrary, the mineral riches in Ukraine appear to be in territory that's controlled by Russia. So it looks as though, because Zelensky now has agreed to the ceasefire, Trump has recontinued intel and military support, which he had discontinued following the fiasco in the Oval Office. And during that interlude, Russia had been very successful in firing missiles into Ukraine and hitting lots of targets, because absent the American intel, they would not know they were coming and couldn't seek to defend themselves against it. On the contrary now, with this attack on Moscow that Tucker is mentioning right off in his conversation with Colonel McGregor. These are deep strikes with some 300 drones on Moscow that could not be conducted absent American intel. And now you have Trump making all kinds of threats in a thuggish fashion about reimposing sanctions on Russia. That is not going to induce Vladimir Putin to work things out with the United States. In fact, to me, it's rather shocking how he's played this stunt now for the third time, because we saw it with Iran. He threatened Iran with strikes by the United States if it did not, give up its pursuit of nuclear weapons, which it's not pursuing, has never been pursuing. And, of course, in addition, threats to Hamas that if they don't turn over all the prisoners, they're all going to be dead. I mean, this is really the opposite of the nature of diplomacy. Putin is the embodiment of tact, subtlety, intelligent analysis. Trump, quite the opposite, sad to say, because I've been such a strong supporter of the Donald. I think he's blowing it big time. I think he's making a lot of bad decisions in terms of foreign policy. Meanwhile, Joaquin Agopian is taking a pessimistic view. You can find his piece, The Stage is Set, Apocalyptic Countdown to One World Government, on my blog at jameshfetzer.org. Donald Trump's a stooge for the Greater Israel Project, owned and operated by the Cindy of London Rothschild bloodline, founder of Israel. His assembled Synagogue of Satan crew is the most pro-Israel cabinet in all of U.S. history. And in the mere 2 months since he's taken office, he's clearly demonstrated he's make Israel great again as a fraud, not a mega man at all. Look at his Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, who was so emotionally moved when he visited the site in Jerusalem where today's Al-Aqsa Mosque stands, not in any deference whatsoever to Islam's third holiest site, but only in his unholy Zionist resolve that there is only a one-state solution, Israel, and that the present mosque holy site must be torn down and the third Jewish temple built. After all, it's not all the Jews' Temple Mount for nothing, Hegseth saith. Well, Nick Kollerstrom has, in fact, done shows with me demonstrating that the Temple Mount is not the location where the temple was located. And all of this is based on historical misunderstanding and inaccuracies. And, of course, after Mecca and Medina, this mosque is the third most holy site in all of Islam, and its destruction would bring about a holy war, an all-out assault by Islam on Israel, the likes of which the world has never seen. So I'm just shocked that we got a guy in position as Secretary of Defense that he'd make such absurd and irresponsible statements. Here's a report. Europe scrambles to aid Ukraine after U.S. intel cutoff, which, as I've observed, has now been restored. Ukraine's allies in Europe are rushing to fill the void left by the Trump admin decision to pause its intel sharing with Kiev. It isn't going to be easy. Right back.
Health Simple with Kalwara Shilaji. Fact bit number 3. Shilaji is the supreme yoga vaha. Within Ayurveda, Shilaji is the singular substance that towers above all other herbs, herbal minerals, and earth-made adaptogens. Yoga vaha refers to substances that have the ability to synergistically make better and carry other substances to its prescribed destination. In the case of Shilaji, most any herb, food, or mineral is amplified with ionic potential superimposing superior efficacy with increased cellular energy and absorption rates. One of the best applications for Shilajit is to add a drop or two into your favorite herbal tincture and foodstuff. Simply put, Shilajit makes other substances more effective.
Look for the gold mountain and medical symbol logo in banners on republicbroadcasting.org to watch the full video and see more information. Use code GORBN when ordering. That's GORBN.
Charles de Gaulle once said, actually, it's difficult to envision in this regard any other criterion, any other standard than gold. Yes, gold, which does not change in nature, which can be made into either bars, ingots, or coins, which has no nationality, and which is considered in all places and all times the immutable and fiduciary value par excellence. So when the question is, why gold? It's simple, my friends. The answer to that question is simply, why not? Like it or not, precious metals will always be the world's reserve currency. Even though nations do not define their currency by their worth in, say, gold, individuals still buy gold and silver to protect themselves from inflation. The more money a nation's central bank pours into the economy, the less valuable its currency, the dollar, is, which means the price of everything else rises. $21 up for a bag of dog food. Seeing that the dollar's cheap, that's why the cost of everything goes up. It's because the buying power, the value of the dollar is tanked. It's worth nothing. And yet gold that your family would have owned in 1907 will buy at least the same amount of goods, if not far more. William McFee once stated, it's extraordinary how many emotional storms one may weather in safety if one is ballasted with ever so little gold. The truth about money, gold versus cash in a crisis. Gold, a valuable thing to store. The power of gold in times of crisis. Historical sketch of paper currency. Oh, and beware the Ides of rare coin dealers. And Alan Greenspan's speech on gold and economic freedom. How interesting. I'm going to give you gold and silver in 5 easy lessons. Seeking out the most efficient and most secure route to owning gold and converting it into widely accepted currency is the next best thing to enjoying gold-backed currency, my friends. In a world of central bankers hell-bent on devaluing our savings, you need to own private gold standard. Contact me, Jeffrey Bennett at Kettle Moraine Limited, by calling our phone number at 602-799-8214. That's 602-799-8214.
Ah, look at all the lonely people. Ah, look at all the lonely people. Eleanor Rigby picks up the rice in the church where a wedding has been. Lives in a dream, waits at the window, wearing the face that she keeps in a jar by the door. Who is it for? All the lonely people. Where do they all come from? All the lonely people.
Anywar.com reports. Trump wants Zelensky to move toward elections to restart U.S. military aid and intel sharing, but he's already begun it, so I don't know how much weight this has. The Trump admin wants Ukrainian President Zelensky to move his country toward elections or consider stepping down as one of the requirements for the U.S. to resume military aid and intelligence sharing with Ukraine. NBC reported Sunday. The report, which cited U.S. officials, said the admin also wants to see a change in Zelensky's attitude toward peace talks and the possibility of ceding territory to Russia and for Ukraine to sign the materials deal. Now give the U.S. a piece of revenue from Ukraine's rare earth minerals and other natural resources. Evidently, the ceasefire agreement hammered out in Riyadh preempted this. Meanwhile, we have France to use interest from frozen Russian assets to finance arms from Ukraine. France will use interest from frozen Russian assets to fund an additional 195 million euros in arms for Ukraine. French Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu said in an interview published Sunday, Paris will provide the Ukrainian army with older equipment from the French army, in particular AMX-10 RC tanks and armored front-end vehicles, which aren't going to do them any good. Meanwhile, Iran has issued a final warning to the U.S. and Israel a nation that has dedicated a peace and has acted with great dignity and integrity. The government of Iran has issued a final warning to the U.S. and Israel concerning the likely pending attack by those countries against Iran. The Iranian government said, an attack on Iran is tantamount to the destruction of all U.S. bases in the region and the destruction of all Israeli nuclear facilities. This comes just days after Donald Trump sent a letter to the Ayatollah seeking to engage Iran in nuclear negotiations. According to Trump, the letter made clear that if Iran does not enter negotiations, it may get bombed. This is that brutish thuggery that has no place in international diplomacy. Meanwhile, protests erupt as anti-NATO Romanian presidential candidate booted from the vote. They've rigged it in a massive way. Scuffles between police and supporters of Romanian politician Călin Gorgescu have erupted outside the Central Election Bureau in Bucharest after the body barred the politician from running in the upcoming election. Gorgescu won the first round of the presidential vote in November, but his victory was soon thereafter nullified by the Constitutional Court. This is corruption gone bananas. NATO doesn't want any break in the ranks. They're not going to even allow him to run. Meanwhile, U.S.-backed Kurds reach a deal to merge with HTS-led Syrian government. Monday, the U.S.-backed Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces signed a deal to merge into the new Syrian government, which is led by HTS, an offshoot of al-Qaeda. The deal was signed between SDF chief Max Loum Abdi and Syrian de facto leader Abram al-Shara, formerly known as Abdul Muhammad al-Juliani. The SDF controls a significant portion of Syria's northeast, where there are almost 2,000 U.S. troops deployed. Mind you, HTS is beheading Christians and others they don't like in Syria. It's a massive slaughter. Very, very bad. Meanwhile, Israeli troops have raided West Bank Mosque on the first day of Ramadan. The Israeli forces raided several mosques in the occupied West Bank of Nablus on 7 March while imposing restrictions on Palestinians seeking to pray at Al-Aqsa Mosque in occupied East Jerusalem. Israeli forces raided 6 mosques in the old city of Nablus at dawn Friday, the first Friday of the Islamic holy month of Ramadan, preventing the morning prayer from being held and detaining 3 Palestinians during their incursion into the city. This is outrageous. Meanwhile, get this, Israeli torture, urinating on Palestinian prisoners, burying them alive, and beating the sick. Freed Palestinian prisoners recount to Middle East Eye how Israeli jailers treated them like animals and brutally tortured some to death. Disgusting.
Eleanor Rigby picks up the rice in a church where a wedding has been. Lives in a dream, waits at the window, wearing the face that she keeps in a jar by the door. Who is it for? All the lonely people.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network. Real news, real talk, real people. Because you can handle the truth.
Hey there, this is Sheila with Hemp Paste by MyNutra. Why is hemp paste better than other CBD options on the market? It's important to point out that the common CBD oil does not contain CBDA or CBGA, and they're only found in fresh or raw hemp products, like hemp paste. Hemp paste contains the entire plant, minus any stems. This means the product retains the complete genetic code of the plant, which also includes those two vital cannabinoids, CBGA and CBDA. Over and over, experts keep saying the more intact or less processed the hemp plant is, the more effective it is. Happy hemp paste.
Hempbase.com/RBN. Free shipping on orders over $50. See the banners for hemp paste at republicbroadcasting.org and visit hemppaste.com/RBN.
Call 855-656-8872. Mention RBN.
Get More Tank will save you money every month on gas. I'm Dave Von Kleist, and I noticed increased performance after my first tank of gas. My mileage increased by 2.5 miles per gallon, and I'm saving money on every fill-up. Get More Tank is American-made, is used by trucking companies and heavy industry, and is now available to the public. Get More Tank works in any gas or diesel engine, cleans your engine, improves performance, reduces emissions, and you'll feel it every time you step on the gas. If you're an owner-operator, farmer, heavy equipment operator, or use any kind of engine from chainsaws, leaf blowers, lawnmowers, ATVs, you name it, contractors, electricians, plumbers, painters, lawn service companies, Get More Tank will save you money and extend the life of your equipment. Hey, if you've got an engine, then Get More Tank. Save your money, save your engine, reduce your emissions, and save the earth with GetMoreTank.com. A 5-pack of GetMoreTank.com is only $22.22 plus shipping. Use the promo code Republic Broadcasting and get 10% off. Get More Tank is EPA registered, doesn't void warranties, and results vary. GetMoreTank.com.
Howdy, cousins. This is RBN host Blackbird 9, a.k.a. Frederick C. Blackburn, asking you to please support the Republic Broadcasting Network. Every day, RBN's mission is to use our collective voices to spread truth and relevant information, to gain a deeper understanding of the adversary, and to gain knowledge for survival against the gradual erosion of the Republic. But in order to sustain this incredible communications network, RBN needs your financial contributions. To donate, visit republicbroadcasting.org, call 1-800-724-2719, or mail your donations to 2251 Double Creek Drive, Suite 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, and I say it's all right.
Stories illuminating what's going on in the Middle East. Israeli sniper admits he stopped counting after killing 200 Palestinians in Gaza. An Israeli soldier who says he'd been haunted by his experience as a sniper in the Gaza Strip admitted to having killed over 200 during the genocidal war on the territory. In chilling confession shared with an Israeli journalist, the soldier said he used to count the people he shot and killed during the war. He was receiving good treatment after being injured in Gaza, but will never be okay again. You have to understand, I was a sniper in Gaza. After 200, I stopped counting. Here's another. Popular Gaza creator may have been killed by gunshot, not shrapnel, doctors say. The Trump admin has escalated the crackdown on Columbia University student protesting Israel's war in Gaza by sending ICE agents to detain and potentially deport a U.S. permanent resident who was one of the lead negotiators on behalf of pro-Palestine protesters at a 2024 Gaza Solidarity Encampment. This morning, Mahmoud Kalal, a Palestinian with Algerian citizenship who holds a green card, made a phone call to his 8-month pregnant wife from ICE custody. It was Kalal's first contact with his family since he was detained Saturday by ICE, who raided his student housing facility at Columbia. The next steps in his case are as yet unknown. But Protests and legal measures are reportedly planned to try and stop the Trump admin from deporting him. I find this utterly disgraceful. Clear violation of the First Amendment. He should be moving in the opposite direction. He should be condoning protests. Let people get it out of their system, express how they feel. Remember, as Voltaire observed, though I may disagree with every word you say, I will defend to the death your right to say it. Might as well have been Thomas Jefferson or Benjamin Franklin. That's a core of what it means to be an American. Trump is violating it viciously on behalf of Israel. I don't like it. Meanwhile, my German policymakers are worried an American kill switch could disable their F-35 fleet. This is from Military Watch. Following the emergence of a significant rift between Washington and the majority of European allies over their position toward the ongoing Russian-Ukrainian war, German policymakers have expressed growing concern over the possibility the U.S. could remotely disable F-35A fifth-generation fighters procured for the German Air Force in the event of a security crisis. 35 of the fighters are currently on order under a $9 billion deal with the aircraft, having procured specifically due to the advanced nuclear delivery capabilities, which is viewed as a necessity due to Germany's ongoing nuclear sharing deal with the U.S. that gives it wartime access to American B-61 bombs. The United States threats to cut off Ukraine's access to the Starlink satellite network and reported limitation of its access to targeting data to utilize precision-guided weapons have set a precedent for this. Meanwhile, a cache of explosives in Sydney provoked anti-Semitic terrorism fears. Police now say it was fake. Wellington, New Zealand. An explosive-filled trailer that Australian politicians earlier described as an anti-Semitic terrorism plot in a foiled mass casualty event was staged by criminals. This is the equivalent of the ATL, giving a scan of praise paint to hire somebody to spray a swastika on a synagogue in a complicated hoax and was never meant to be detonated, police said Monday. Well, it was to set up a reaction that would be favorable to Israel, have no doubt. Meanwhile, and this is another reason I think this guy is got to be replaced, the Defense Secretary Hegseth wants to overthrow China's government. China's government. Trump Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is a self-declared crusader who believes the U.S. is in a holy war against China, the left, and Islam. Communist China will fall, he vowed in his 2020 book, American Crusade, promising Israel and America will form an even tighter bond, fighting the scourge of Islamism and international leftism. This is really bad, really bad. I can't believe. Meanwhile, high attrition rates and increased waivers muddy enlistment numbers. Department of Defense Secretary Hegseth touted record enlistment numbers. But what is the whole picture? Despite positive recruitment reports from Pete Hegseth, the Army is struggling with high attrition rates. In other words, he's counting the number who are added, but not subtracting the number who are leaving. Nearly 25% of recruits have failed to complete their contracts since 2022. The Army reported in September it exceeded its fiscal year 2024 recruitment goals, even witnessing a backlog of new recruits waiting for training, as around 11,000 were placed in a delayed entry program. The question seemed to be, can they keep them? The numbers aren't promising. I think with a surge of patriotism with Trump's election, they got that increase. But now that they see the U.S. is looking to go to war in Gaza, slaughter Palestinians? What American soldier wants to do that? Why would an American sign up? Or fight in Ukraine against the Russians? The numbers are going to dwindle, guaranteed. Here we have fabricated panic over anti-Semitism in the U.S. medical community conceals an attack on Palestinians. In 2024, I was disinvited from presenting a lecture on health and human rights consequences of the Israeli assault on Gaza by unnamed administrators at Harvard, who, I was told, accused me of being an anti-Semite. At Giesel, the medical school affiliated with Dartmouth, I was also invited and then met with an indefinite postponement for a similar presentation. It's clear these have not been isolated events. So they don't want anyone, a doctor who knows what's going on in Palestine and how the Palestinians are being slaughtered by the Israelis, to report about it. Meanwhile, we have Mac Blumenthal reporting why Netanyahu sabotaged a ceasefire with Hamas. Nothing surprising.
The Israelis on a strategy of let's comply with this deal as much as we can and get as many of our people out as possible, and then we're going to continue to bombard Gaza once Hamas gives up. Yeah, I mean, I'm unclear on where that stands, because I've read also reports that the White House is backing Netanyahu up, and Israel Katz's defense minister is under pressure from the right flank of Likud to actually attack humanitarian convoys. Deir al-Balah, the central Gaza city, has seen its water desalination plants dry up as water is cut off from the outside. There have already been consequences. But what we heard throughout the Biden-Blinken administration for months and months and months, actually for 15 months, was that Israel was not obstructing humanitarian aid. And then only in October was a letter delivered under the names Blinken and Pentagon Secretary Lloyd Austin warning Israel that they had to abide by agreements to allow a certain amount of trucks and humanitarian aid in, or the U.S. would begin to cut off weapons to Israel according to the Leahy Law, U.S. Arms Export Act.
But the fact is, we're doing none of the above. We're allowing it to go on. And remember the rule of 3. 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, and you're dead. Bad, bad, bad. Cutting off electricity to the desalination plant means the Palestinians have no water. 3 days. Meanwhile, the new Syria, Islamists kill, abduct, and threaten Alawites and Christians. This is coming from the European conservative reporting. They are slaughtering them by the hundreds and thousands, principally beheading. The al-Qaeda-affiliated HTS forces who took over Damascus in December killed thousands of Syrian civilians over the last 2 days, targeting Alawites and Christians. The Britain-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported on March 8th that over 1,000 people, including 745 civilians, have been killed in 2 days of violence in the coastal region of western Syria, which is heavily populated by members of the Alawite minority. The victims include many women, children, and entire families. The exact death toll is estimated to be higher, I dare say, much higher. Meanwhile, Syrian Girl on X leaked. Hillary Clinton emails on Syria show the U.S. knew overthrowing Assad would lead to Christians and Shia Alawites being butchered, but that it would be good for Israel. How bad is that? This is from WikiLeaks, Hillary Clinton email. You can see it. You can read it here. I've given you the link. Meanwhile, the Russians are giving shelter. The Russians are giving shelter to the Christians, the Druze, and the Alawite women and children at the Hemim Air Base in Syria. Whoever they can save, really. The Russians are there saving lives. The U.S. is there providing weapons to kill them. Meanwhile, Israeli guilt stalls promised relief. Here's an image, cartoons about what's going on, why we're not getting the release of the Epstein files or the JFK files, or America waits and waits, the Epstein file, the JF file, that waits, auditing Fort Knox and waits, ending the Fed, waits. That's because Israel is involved in all of them. And in fact, Pam Bondi has said now they're going to edit, they're going to redact the files in the interest of Israeli national security. In others, they're not going to let the American people see the proof that Israel has been involved in these atrocities. Defense Secretary Hegseth delivers a savage response to Pentagon officials and experts, whining that cutting climate change programs will harm national security. Now, in this case, he's in the right, because the climate change is a scam and a hoax. The shift from Lloyd Austin to Hegseth, the defense secretary, has proven to be one of the biggest upgrades in American history, and a statement issued by Hegseth today drives a point home. As the Gateway Pundit readers know, the Trump admin has tasked Elon Musk and Dodge to downsize the federal government. So far, Dodge has saved taxpayers $105 billion. Oh, it's overwhelmingly greater. Many of the programs slashed include DEI and climate change. These have been rampant within the DOD for decades, contributing to its inability to pass an audit. Yes, no doubt. On the right track here. Meanwhile, and this is huge.
Defend our rights. Keep our
This is huge. Listen to this. Shock report. Biden did not sign any document as president. Fake signatures done with an auto pen. All laws and orders void. Listen to this.
I'm just a man whose circumstances went beyond his control, beyond my control, beyond control.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. We are not exaggerating when we say that what's been uncovered today by Republican investigators may be the single largest scandal in the history of the presidency. This is dark. Where the hell is Joe Biden? Not like the Joe Biden in the 4-year hospice stay that he had in the White House, but like today. Joe Biden loves the limelight, his power. He loves being on camera. He loves his stupid aviators. Why haven't you seen or heard anything from Joe Biden? He's vanished. Nothing. You know, his kids in all this trouble. Hunter Biden's in legal suits saying he has no more money. He can't afford to continue litigation. His life's a disaster. His kids are flailing. His entire legacy is being destroyed and eroded. You think that Joe Biden would be running to the cameras, right? Jumping on MSNBC, NPR, podcasts. No, we've seen Joe Biden one single time in this video in some strange little pie shop where Joe Biden has a massive dent in his face. What the hell's that? You notice this on the side of Joe Biden's face? Giant bruising. Not only does Joe Biden look like he's not with us, right? You see the hollow, empty stare there. You can see that Joe Biden's clearly hit his chin. And how do you hit your chin? You fall over. What does that indicate? That indicates that you've lost your motor functions, your fine motor functions, just like we saw Joe Biden fall time and time again during his presidency.
Now, we're going to have much more about this story tomorrow. I have them lined up. Meanwhile, Rubio announces 83% of aid programs, U.S. aid programs, canceled. Musk calls move tough but necessary. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced Monday 83% of the programs at U.S. Agency for International Development are being canceled following a 6-week review. The 5,200 contracts that are now canceled spent tens of billions of dollars in ways that did not serve and in some cases even harmed the core national interests of the United States. Mind you, We have the report that USAID funded the Black Lives riots following the fake death of George Floyd, that USAID money was used to bring about those riots, the arson, even murders across the country. Meanwhile, teacher union chief Randy Weingarten admits the real reason she doesn't want the education department closed.
My name is John. I'm the founder of Blackout Coffee, and I started Blackout because I really love coffee. I've always loved coffee, and after traveling so much to Europe, South America, and trying so many different coffees that were so good, and every time I came back to the U.S., I was so disappointed with the coffee, so I figured that I had to do something about it. The biggest difference is on the beans and the roasting process, how we roast it, and how fresh it is. The fresher the roast, the better the quality. Here I have all of the coffee. It's roasted within 1 to 2 days prior to being shipped. So it literally gets to consumers' house within 3 to 5 days after being roasted. If you like coffee, you have to try ours. It's fresh roasted. It's one of the best beans that we can get, and you will definitely see the difference.
Visit blackoutcoffee.com and use the coupon code REPUB10. That's REPUB10.
Tehibo Tea Club's original Pure Pouty Arco Super Tea helps build red corpuscles in the blood, which carry oxygen to our organs and cells. Our organs and cells need oxygen to regenerate themselves. The immune system needs oxygen to develop, and cancer dies in oxygen. So the tea is great for healthy people because it helps build the immune system, and it can truly be miraculous for someone fighting a potentially life-threatening disease due to an infection, diabetes, or cancer. The tea is also organic and naturally caffeine-free. A 1-pound package of tea is $49.95, which includes shipping. To order, please visit drinksupertea.com. The first word is drink, spelled D-R-I-N-K, then the word super, then the word tea. The complete website is drinksupertea.com. Or call us at 818-965-9113, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. California time. That's 818-965-9113. drinksupertea.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Extendovite really works. Just listen to what Wayne has to say.
Extendovite. I have been taking it for about 2 years, and I had really bad heart palpitations. And since I've been taking it, I don't have any major episodes at all anymore. I'm 76 years old, and I still play competitive basketball. Well, of course, I've taken care of myself really good since I was 60, but Extendovite really helped the blood pressure, really helped I used to get really bad episodes of heart palpitations, just skipping beats and double beats. But also I wanted to tell you that I really appreciate your broadcast. They're just really refreshing.
To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Well, the teacher union chief is opposed to closing the Department of Education because she believes it'll give parents more options for school choice. She doesn't want that to happen. She's representing her teachers. If they bullet kids out of public schools, some of her members are going to lose their jobs. Meanwhile, here are 5 additional stories, one of which upsets me a lot. Trump declares war on Thomas Massie. Vows to lead primary challenge after Massie opposes a Trump-endorsed funding bill. This is bad. It's called democracy, Donald. And this guy Massey is the only one who refuses to an AIPAC handler. He's a good man. He's more American than you are, Donald Trump, I dare say. Thomas Massey is more 100% for MAGA than you are yourself. This case actually demonstrates it. Meanwhile, we have Musk with a terrifying revelation.
You really do, yeah. This claim is shocking. Now watch as the conversation shifts to an even darker possibility.
Well, I certainly hope that SpaceX and Tesla are not forced to develop any kind of weapons technology. Obviously, we would only do such a thing if it was the last resort. I think I can be helpful in conflicts.
Musk's voice reveals his deep concern about the future, but listen to what he says next.
I try to take the set of actions that are most likely to improve the probability that the future will be good.
Now watch as Musk reveals his ultimate mission in global conflicts.
Obviously, sometimes I make mistakes in this regard, so it's not like I always get it right, but I aspire to get it right.
Yeah, I think Musk is a good guy. He certainly is doing a great job, in my opinion, with Dodge. Meanwhile, Biden green pork for his pals. An epic example of insider trading, insider feeding, the New York Post calls it. In the final days of Biden administration handed out billions to freshly founded climate outfits in a scramble to pump taxpayer money to lefty activists, really friends of Biden. And all the slimy details are coming to light. Thanks to a new Environmental Protection Agency chief, Leo Zelkin. Yes, I like it. It's being exposed. Meanwhile, turns out that a CIA-connected D.C. hospital chief was used as an advisor to the Warren Commission. This was to cover up the injuries JFK had sustained. When I was in my early teens, I read Mark Lane's critique of the Warren Commission, rushed to judgment. It was along with what I was reading about the Vietnam War, a living part of my political awakening.